Heart racing, is adrenaline flowing.
The whistle was going, and I just knew that the train was too close.
We were prepared for a crash.
It was just before 9:30 on October 30th when Officer Tony Paler and Sergeant Dan Leader got a radio call about a car stuck on the train tracks at Pettigrew and Plum.
I said, I'll respond.
Officer Paler got there first and saw the truck with 4 people inside.
The front axle got caught on the track.
That's when Officer Paler realized a train was coming and was told it was going too fast to stop.
I'm screaming, get out of the truck, get out of the truck, because the train is coming and you can hear the train coming down the tracks and you can hear the horn blowing.
Paler says 3 people hopped out, but the driver was stuck.
He was paraplegic, he had one leg and he was kind of heavy.
So Officer Paler tried to pull the driver out.
When I pulled up, the train was bearing down. I could see Tony struggling with this gentleman, and the train did not appear that it was going to stop.
Sergeant Leader had learned that train was carrying chemicals and was told to get out of the area. Instead, he ran toward the tracks.
I just ran across the tracks, knowing that the train was coming, just to make sure that I could help Tony.
Wasn't saying too much except for, come on, let's pull, let's pull, let's pull, let's get him away.
We had to get this guy far enough away from the tracks, far enough away from the car, so that just in case this train didn't stop, we have a chance of making sure that we all survive.
Finally, the pair pulled the man out of the truck and dragged him to safety. At that moment, the train stopped 50 feet from them.
The conductor got off and he said, you know, must be a godsend tonight because I've never stopped a train this fast.
Sergeant Leader and Officer Paler
On Thursday night, Officer Paler and Sergeant Leader were awarded one of the Durham Police Department's highest honors for their actions they say are all part of their job.
Stuff like this happens all the time. Just not recognized for it all the time.
I didn't know who this guy was. Tony didn't know who this guy was. It doesn't matter. Stranger or friend, it doesn't matter. We're there to protect people and to save lives when we can.
Your life can change in a split of a second.
Howard Boone doesn't remember the split second a bullet pierced his neck. But every breath reminds him life will never be the same.
I played high school, I played football, lacrosse, baseball, ran track.
A promising athlete and successful student at St. Augustine's, Howard served in the Army Reserves, was part of the ROTC program, and earned a $68,000 scholarship. He even jumped from planes at airborne school.
Whatever he set his mind out to, he was doing it.
I plan on doing 20 plus years as an Army officer, starting out as second lieutenant.
Proud to join the Omega Psi Phi fraternity, in March he traveled to Columbia, South Carolina for initiation. Later, at a St. Patrick's Day celebration, authorities say someone started shooting into a crowd, hitting 3 innocent victims, leaving Howard paralyzed.
But he just turned our life upside down. We don't know what he did. The damage is just that he did.
Howard doesn't focus on the shooter, but his own future, even if his dreams are much different than before.
Be able to be on my feet, want to be able to get out the ventilator, breathe on my own. Of course, we're going to have our moments where we cry and think about different things, but I'm grateful that I'm still here because I'm alive, I'm talking now.
This is my car here, ain't much to it.
Investigator Jay Moore spends his days keeping tabs on the sex offenders living in Wake County.
And when we go out, we just go door to door until we either run out of time or run out of people, and we never seem to run out of people.
There are roughly 800 sex offenders living here, and Moore is one of 3 people whose full-time job it is to make sure they're actually staying at the address where they're registered.
He's at work?
You had to be to work at 2.
Hey, how you doing, sir? I'm looking for is this it?
So what happens when you go and this person, somebody isn't there where they're supposed to be?
If we go and we can confirm that person's not there anymore, at that point we got to stop and say, okay, let's look back and see what we can find of where this person's been.
And that is the challenge. Sometimes these offenders have just skipped town.
We've actually found one that was up in Maine.
Other times, the sex offenders don't have a place to stay at all and are homeless.
A lot of times these guys are living in a tent in the woods, living under a bridge or whatever, and it's a little harder to kind of keep track of those because they don't have neighbors you can talk to necessarily.
That was the story with Daniel Lauk. He moved to Cumberland County in 2006 after serving 10 years in prison for the attempted rape of an 8-year-old.
I don't think Mr. Lauk has had a permanent location. He's always been homeless. And then he moved to Wayne County for a period of time and then came back here.
In 2016, Lauk moved to Wayne County for 5 months, and he's now accused of raping a 12-year-old. The child was living in this same home where Lauk was registered, something not prohibited under North Carolina law.
What is your reaction to that, given his previous conviction was for raping a child?
You know, we have to follow the law. Judges have to follow the law. Prosecutors have to follow the law. You know, it doesn't mean that we all like it, but we have to follow the law.
Every sheriff's department is responsible for keeping track of the offenders living in their county. Often that task falls to a small handful of people. Wayne County has one full-time person in its sex offender unit, and in the 5 months Lauk was living there, they verified his address twice.
How difficult is it to keep track of the, nearly 200 people on this registry?
It is very time consuming. Though we do have individuals who, they are registered, they know that they violated the law, they know what they have to do, and we do not have any problems with them. And of course, there are others that, no matter what, they're going to take the law into their own hands and they are going to violate the law. And they're the ones that we really are concerned about.
Which is why some counties are sending their efforts to keep track of sex offenders into overdrive. Although the state requires address checks only twice a year, in Cumberland, deputies do checks on each offender every 90 days. And in Wake County, Investigator Moore and his unit check each offender 6 times a year.
Protesters bringing in a ladder and rope in a matter of seconds, toppling a Confederate statue. The monument of a Confederate soldier had stood in front of the courthouse since 1924.
For hours, people blocked streets and chanted.
What do we want? Justice!
Amid rumors white nationalists plan to demonstrate in Durham, at the site where protesters brought down a Confederate statue this week.
I saw on TV earlier this morning an army of love organizing and coming together to defeat hate.
Some county offices closed, but as the day went on, the sheriff said he could never verify the rumors and asked people to stop spreading them.
How crucial is that right now, given the emotionally charged situation that we're in here?
It's really, really important. That's what I started to do on social media this morning. I saw these reports coming through on social media, and what I said is, look, I can't find anything official.
At one point, one of the president's supporters argued with the protesters. Some people use the demonstration as a moment to teach.
You don't go into hate. That means another kid his age was taught to hate and came to school and hit you with that negative energy. And I'm sorry they did that to you, bro.
But some in the crowd grew frustrated.
I don't like them being in the street because it is causing a major traffic jam and people could get hurt.
No justice! No peace!
The demonstrators marched to the police department where officers in riot gear were waiting. Officers told the demonstrators to get out of the streets.
Who do you work for?
Most of them left within an hour, but many say they'll come back. Left behind on this statue dedicated to the boys who wore gray, a warning to the members of the hate group who wear white.